out everybody, and no one can whoop him. Only last week, I murdered a rock, injured a stone, hospitalized a brick. I'm so mean, I make medicine sick.
Yo, what's up, guys? It's your boy Chris coming at you with another episode to the Beautiful Struggle podcast. And this is episode 18. And man, am I feeling 120% better. If you guys heard the last episode from last week, you guys already know that I was feeling under the weather. Wasn't feeling the best. I still felt the need to push out that podcast episode for you guys. If you guys haven't heard that episode, go back and check it out. I really had to pray to God for strength and protection to put that episode out. But by the will of God, I put that out. And we're back and I'm better than ever. And I really don't know what happened. I typically have a really strong immune system. And my wife does as well. She has a phenomenal immune system. And even when we start to come down with like a little cold or something like that, we usually have our own little processes and methods to prevent us from getting sick. And man, I don't know what happened. I just caught it. It just caught up to me. The wifey is good, so it's all good now. And with that being said, you guys already know, this is the Beautiful Struggle podcast. This podcast is all about sharing perspective, finding purpose, and exploring different forms of hustle. And I was just recently thinking, if you guys have any questions or if you guys have any topics that you want me to speak about or discuss, please, the best way to get a hold of me and to send those questions over is Instagram. Send me a DM on Instagram. I will 1,000% read it and I'll enjoy the feedback. And I would love to come on here and just answer your questions. If you guys want to talk about anything, if you guys want me to talk about anything, I'm very transparent on here. So feel free to shoot me a DM on Instagram at Chris Bale. So just look me up and you'll find me. So something that it's been on my mind a lot lately and I've been seeing a whole lot lately is this one word, and this word is ownership. And that's something I want to talk about today. I just want to come on here and talk about ownership. And the type of ownership that I'm talking about is the type that involves accountability and taking responsibility for your actions. And I'm not going to lie, I'll be the first one to say that I am not perfect, and I'm super transparent with you guys. And I'm not going to lie, I can struggle with taking ownership sometimes. As my wife can proudly tell you, sometimes I can just struggle with it. And it's not even nothing huge. It's nothing like that's going to deteriorate our relationship. But it's just usually small little things that we go back and forth about. And, the wife just wants you to take ownership for. And, I pray to God a lot about it. And I came to figure out that it's really just like a little ego that flares up in me when I don't want to be wrong. When I feel like I'm right, my ego kind of flares up, and everything will make sense in a second. So it just kind of reminded me of a book that I recently finished reading. It's called Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. So these two guys, they came together, co-wrote the book. They were both ex-Navy SEALs that fought in the Iraq War. So they come in the book and they really share both their experiences, and they have written different portions of the book. And what I wanted to read a quote to you guys from Jocko Willink. He says, "For leaders to admit and own mistakes and develop a plan to overcome them is essential to success." I'll read it again. For leaders to admit and own mistakes and develop a plan to overcome them is essential to success. And you guys might be wondering, so why why are you bringing this up? And you guys should already know that when I come on the podcast, I like to talk about things that are relevant, that are relevant in my life and that makes sense to what's going on around me and that's actively happening. And this is something that, and again, I'm not pointing out fingers and I'm not saying no names, and I never will, but I just been seeing people not take responsibility for what they're doing wrong, and they don't own up to what they're doing wrong. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect, and I'll be the first person to tell you that I can struggle with this. But it really blows my mind when people start playing the blame game. And I've been seeing this a lot when people are blaming others for things they clearly did wrong. For example, something small, but being late. If you know me, if you truly, truly know me, you know I don't care where you go to church, work. I don't care where you go, meeting. If you are late, it just literally blows my mind, and it's a huge pet peeve of mine when people are late. It's just, like I said, if you know me, ever since I was in high school, I would come to basketball practice like a whole hour early, and they would always preach, if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. And if you're late, don't even show up. So that's something that was constantly drilled in me. And, people being late and blaming other people for circumstances, it really just blows my mind. And it's just part of people not owning up to what they did wrong. And the thing about it is, it's okay to make mistakes. We're all going to make mistakes. It's okay to make a fool out of ourselves and do things that are wrong. And honestly, it takes courage to say that you're wrong. And it really does, because like I said earlier, sometimes I feel like I'm always right. And that could be maybe a little issue of mine. Is I just feel like sometimes I'm always right, and my brain is like, no, what? Like, you're correct. I don't get what's going on, and it doesn't process me being wrong. But at the end of the day, it really does take courage to say, you know what, I'm wrong in this situation. What I said is wrong. Or my ideas are wrong, and it takes courage to do that, and it's okay for you to be wrong. But you need to own everything in your world. Own everything in your world and everything that's in it. And that's a repeated, topic in the book Extreme Ownership. Is Jocko and Leif Babin. They say own everything in your world. These guys, at the time, they were Navy SEALs. And they're in a profession where if you don't take ownership of what you're doing wrong, or if you don't take ownership of your team, that's a thin line between life and death. Like these guys are not playing at all. Like, you don't take ownership into what you did wrong, or you shooting at the wrong guys. That's a thin line between life and death. And even in the book, Jocko says, blame yourself for everything. Like, literally everything. For an example, Jocko and Leif Babin, they go to a diner, and at the diner, Jocko orders, the waitress comes up to Jocko, and she takes his order. 30 minutes later or whatever, she comes back with the wrong order. And in that moment, Jocko had two decisions to make. And he could have either blame the waitress, maybe don't even want to leave her a tip or whatever, or he can take ownership in what he did wrong. And a lot of you listening are like, well, what the heck did he do wrong? He didn't do anything wrong. Well, and it's crazy because he's like, honestly, I could have articulated myself a lot better to where the waitress understood exactly what I ordered, so that would have prevented this issue. And of course, that's an extreme example of taking ownership, but that's how deep, and that's how far these guys take it, because they know in their profession there's a thin line between life and death. And you know what? As a husband, I have to create that environment where I don't have an ego, and it's okay to be at fault. I just need to own up to it. And really to wrap it up, taking ownership in our life, there could be a thin line between our marriages failing or succeeding, or relationships failing or succeeding, or our business crashing to burn or succeeding. Like, taking that ownership in your life will translate to you having massive success at work, in your relationship, and in your business. The moment that you take ownership is the first step into you reaching your goal. And it's crazy because I was recently talking to a friend that has been losing a lot of weight, losing a lot of healthy weight. And, you know, I'm usually curious and really fascinated by what they did to make that switch to lose that weight. A lot of people, they want to know, oh, what diet were you on, or what were you eating, what were you drinking, what pills. But I already know, like, it takes and I know what you eat and you put in your body has a lot to do with it, but even more so, it's your mindset. So I asked him, like, you know, what's up? Like, what did you do? And he said, this is literally what he said. He said, honestly, taking ownership that he was overweight was the first step for him to reach his goals. He said he literally had to look in the mirror and take ownership that he was overweight, and I don't know how many pounds he was overweight, but he had to take ownership that he was quote unquote, I don't know, 100 pounds overweight. And he that was the first step for him to getting on track to being healthy again. And I was just like, wow, like that's huge, and that's big time. And the guy, I'm super proud of him. So again, to wrap all this up, do yourself a favor and do the people around you a favor, the people in your business, the people at work, the people that you're in a relationship with. Do yourself a favor and them a favor. Start taking ownership of everything that goes on in your world. It's your boy Chris, and I'll catch y'all next week.
I have wrestled with an alligator. I done tussled with a whale. I done handcuffed lightning, throw thunder in bed. I done handcuffed lightning, throw thunder in bed. Fast. Last night I cut the light off in my bedroom, hit the switch, was in the bed before the room was dark.